Good morning, everybody. Hey, it's John King. It is Friday, the 19th of July, and I'm coming at you with my weekly market update. Thank you for everybody who joins me either watching live or after it's recorded and keeping update on what the heck is happening with the markets. So let's go ahead and dive in on what's going on. So first and foremost, rate volatility is the name of the game right now. We're kind of what is it? Cape Horn? Is that what goes around the tip of South America? And maybe that's tip of Africa. Anyway, bottom line is that when you have two seas that come together, the seas get very, very rough. My geography is not as good as my lending. So the good news is I'm in lending, not in navigation of ships around the world. But when you have a changing of the tide, the seas can get rough. And that's exactly what we're dealing with right now, is a changing of the tide. We're getting more and more information about the Fed saying, hey, we're pretty much going to lower interest rates. And I want to remind you, as I said over and over again, the Fed does not control mortgage rates, but the Fed's influence on where rates are going for the Fed influences what mortgage bonds are trading at. But the truth is mortgages go down in anticipation of the Fed going down. And by the time the Fed actually lowers interest rates, you're actually potentially seeing a bump in rates or them being flat. So let me explain to you the dynamic. What's happening right now, what happened this week in interest rates shifting down a little bit. Now they've come up a little bit today, but as interest rates were shifting down, that is the anticipation that the Fed is likely to lower interest rates at their September meeting. So we in the mortgage world, the traders who trade mortgage bonds, they see what you see. And so when somebody says, hey, John, I'm waiting to buy until the Fed drops rates. Why? Because the Fed doesn't control mortgage rates. And so you're going to wait and you're going to miss the boat. Get that? The tie? You see what I did there? You got the boat, you got the waters, you got the charting. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so you're going to miss the boat. You have to be careful, because what happens by the time the Fed meets in September, everybody already knew that they were going to lower rates. We presume, let's say nobody knows, but we presume. We've baked that in or built that into our interest rates. Now, if in September they say, yeah, that was our only rate drop we're going to see this year, the market actually is going to raise rates some, because there's some market participants that are thinking rates are going to keep going down and they're going to lower it again in November and again in December, and we're going to have 3 rate drops this year. And so in September, if they say we're feeling pretty good that rates are going to keep going down, then you're going to see rates drop even more. And everybody's going to say, see, John, I should have waited until the Fed lowered rates because here rates fell. It didn't have to do with the Fed actually lowering the rate. It had to do with the guidance the Fed gave of what's going to happen next. So we're hearing right now what's happening and what the Fed is saying, and it is all but certain that Fed is going to lower interest rates. Now, what does that control? It controls your credit card rate. It controls home equity line of credit rates. But that's it. Everything else, it just influences. And the dynamics the Fed is looking at, like inflation and employment, are the same dynamics that influence the stock market and influence the bond market, and mortgages are a bond. So during this time of change, as the seas are changing, as the tide is changing, we're going to see more volatility. You got to be careful about volatility. For my Dream for All winners, I'm having many conversations with you, especially those of you that have gone into contract, about long-term versus short-term volatility. If you're looking at short-term volatility, it could be a minor thing that causes rates to bump back up. We saw all rates across the board move up this morning compared to where they were yesterday. They were lower yesterday compared to where they were Wednesday. So we're seeing a lot of undulations. In the short term, you can't control what an announcement is going to be from day to day, what a global outage of all Microsoft systems is going to do to the worldwide market, like what we're experiencing this morning. You don't know what's going to happen at the last minute that could create a problem with your plans. Now, if you're talking big picture, you can plan for the fact that we expect rates to be lower in the next couple of years, but you can't plan for whether they're going to be lower in the next couple of weeks. So you have to be conservative or safe. My general statement is, if you like the interest rate, lock it. And especially if you're not willing to risk it being higher. Once you're in contract, you couldn't really time when you went into contract to say, hey, I'm only going to go into contract when rates are down at a certain level. Like, you can't time it that way. You have to look at, okay, are homes available? I've got so many buyers right now that are saying, John, I only have 90 days to find a home, and I don't know if I'm able to find one in time. I had a buyer I gave a purchase pre-approval to, not a Dream for All buyer, gave him a pre-approval last Friday. They went out looking at homes this weekend. They wrote an offer on Tuesday. They got accepted on Wednesday. Okay. It can happen that quickly. Now, I know that a lot of people say, oh, no, I want to get the right house. This is my forever home. There is not enough inventory out there to find your forever perfect home. And jumping on the train of home ownership, getting on the process to be able to build equity, to have future net worth is huge. I was talking to a client this week who didn't win Dream for, actually was on the wait list. And he said, I'm worried about interest rates and where they're at, but more importantly, John, I'm worried about missing out on appreciation. Because if I buy a $500,000 home and that house appreciates by an average of 5% per year, then I'm losing out on $25,000 of appreciation by waiting a year to buy a home. And I'm not sure I want to do that. I'm not sure if I even want to wait 6 months because I'm going to lose about $12,500 in appreciation in that 6-month timeline. I'd rather pay the $1,000 extra a month or $500 extra a month to move forward now without Dream for All. Now, I'm not saying that's your decision, but I'm saying that's something to think about. And so you have to consider long versus short here. All right. So a Dream for All question. Number 10, in SAC, any hope? Lots of hope. Like lots and lots of hope. You should be talking to your lender, or me if I'm your lender, or if I'm not your lender and you want to switch, make me your lender. You have lots of hope. So you are in great shape. I strongly expect, I'm going to talk in about 5-10 minutes when I get through what I want to talk through here today. I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why I'm seeing people drop out. I'm seeing a lot more people drop out than I expected. So number 10 in Sacramento is huge, and you have lots and lots and lots of hope. All right. So before I get into opt out, let me talk about the housing market itself. Inventory is still up. I talked to a seller who lowered their price. A property that was in Southern California that was listed at a price, had been there for about 30 days. They lowered it by 20 grand. My buyer jumped on it immediately. And it is really a great time to be offering on homes, but don't be afraid if you have a house that's been sitting for 30 days to write an offer below what the list price is. Because here's what happened. This house was listed at a certain number. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to give away the property or the client, but this house was listed at a certain number. My buyer thought about writing an offer at that number. And they said no, and there was some challenges about how we were going to approve them at that number. And so we ended up saying, nope, it wasn't the right idea. Perfect. But the seller lowered the price by $20,000. So my buyer writes an offer immediately. Now the seller's delaying a little bit. They're playing games and saying, no, I need extra time. They need extra time because they're trying to get out there and find more buyers to bid the price back up. But had we offered, now hindsight's 2020, we didn't know they were ready to drop the price by 20 grand. But had we offered 20 grand lower the other day, there wouldn't have been any market exposure that they were waiting for. Now they're saying, man, the moment we drop the price by 20 grand and we have an offer immediately, then let's give it the weekend to see if we can get more offers, to see if we can get them to compete against each other and bid it up. And that's what you don't want is a bidding war. So if you've got a property that's been sitting a little bit and it's a little bit above what you want it to be, make an offer. It doesn't hurt to make an offer. The seller may have been thinking already, hey, I think I need to lower the price. And you wrote an offer that lo and behold is the price they were thinking of lowering. It's fate. They accept your offer and nobody else knows there was a price drop that was about to happen. So it's just something to think about. All right. We got another question and I'll jump onto my agenda. Actually, same person. Thanks. It's reassuring. I hate how lots of new builds have incentives for low rates, but end this month. Was hoping to capitalize on it. You can't. So here's the deal. You cannot get a low rate with Dream for All. Now, that kind of sucks how I said that, but let me clarify. The Dream for All program to get the assistance requires that you use the Dream for All program for the primary mortgage, which means you have to get the big loan from the state. And the builder's low interest rates don't transfer over to money that comes from the state. So you can't tie the two together. You can still get incentives for your closing costs as long as you're using their lender, but you cannot tie it with the incentive that comes with a lower interest rate. So you can get closing costs, but you can't get interest rates. Here's the other thing. Builders need to sell homes. And so the builder is saying the incentive ends at this month, end of this month. Do you know why it ends at the end of this month? Because they want to make you make a decision faster. So a lot of these things, they'll replace it with a different incentive. You ever notice that? Something goes on sale. You got a car that you were looking at and it's on sale and it ends tomorrow. I got to do it. And so you don't do it. You're like, forget it. I'm not going to do it. And then next week there's a better sale. So you got to be careful. There's no guarantee there's a better sale around the corner, but the builder needs to sell homes. Okay, so yeah, that is I'm not sure if you're saying that's good or bad news, but it's the truth that it is not it's not tied. Their money, a bucket of money at those low rates, you cannot use with Dream for All Money. All right, opt out pre-screen. Have you ever? A lot of you applied for a mortgage. And have you ever been inundated by phone calls from lenders saying, "Hey, I know you applied for a mortgage. I want to give you alternative options." You ever open up your mailbox and get all the spam credit offers and you're afraid, my gosh, I got to destroy these because I'm afraid that somebody's going to steal my credit or take this offer and open up a credit card by stealing it out of my mailbox? You can stop all of that by doing an opt out. Okay. An opt out basically has you opting out of pre-screened credit offers. The link is in the description down below, and it's optoutprescreen.com. Don't do the permanent one because you have to mail it in and it's a nightmare. Do the 5-year one. You'll know when it's up, because in 5 years when it's up, you'll start getting solicitations again. So it's simple. You go online, you fill out your information, you hit submit for the 5-year, it's done. You're not going to get credit card offers in the mail anymore. If you need a credit card, go search one out. You're not going to get inundated with phone calls when you apply for a mortgage because you have 400 other people that purchased your information from the credit agencies and start overwhelming you with phone calls over and over again to convince you that I'm smarter and better looking and cheaper than John King. Maybe one of those is true, you pick. All right, anyway, so the bottom line is opt out pre-screen. Do it now, even if you've already started the process of a mortgage, even if you already own a home. Opt out pre-screen gets you out of all of those credit offers you didn't want anyway, and it really saves you a lot of headache and having to deal with it. Local assistance programs. I'm hearing more and more people saying, John, what are my alternatives? How else can I buy a home? I didn't win on Dream for All. I didn't make it in on time. I don't know what to do. And the answer is, let's look at some local alternatives. San Diego County has some great programs. The income limits are very, very low. So you got to be careful because they'll only allow you on some of them up to 80%, sometimes 100, sometimes 120% of area median income. San Diego County, as an example, has some specific condominium projects that are selling homes at below market value. Now, the problem is when you buy it at below market value and then in 5 years you want to sell it, you have to resell it at below market value. So you don't get the benefit of, oh, I'm getting a deal on it now and I can sell it for a high amount later. Okay, you can only buy these condos if you're under a certain threshold. You can only buy these condos using the assistance program from San Diego. I am certified in San Diego's program. There's programs all up and down the state in your local regions. And so what you need to do is you need to search, insert city name here, housing. Oh my gosh, what did I normally search? Down payment assistance programs or housing assistance programs. Gosh, I'm totally blanking on what I would normally search. The bottom line is you are searching Rockland up in Northern California has a first-time home buyer program. City of Rockland first-time home buyer incentives or first-time home buyer program. And it pops up immediately with the City of Rockland's webpage. And they have a program with a particular community off of Whitney Boulevard that the entire community is low to moderate income required properties. And so you can only buy if you're low to moderate income. I helped somebody buy one earlier this year for $275,000. A similar condo would go for $400,000. I helped somebody in San Diego buy a condo that was $450,000. You can't, excuse me, $350,000 in San Diego, that you can't find a property in San Diego, let alone a condo below $450,000. And this property was listed at $350,000. So you're getting a great opportunity to become a homeowner. You have to be under certain income thresholds. So that leaves a lot of people out, very tight income thresholds. But if you meet the criteria, it's an amazing program. And there are more programs that are coming out all the time. So stay tuned. Speaking of programs, I want to just make a quick plug. I've never talked about this really before, but there are programs for different people that have different circumstances. The one I want to spotlight today is for ITINs. If somebody is an immigrant to the United States that does not have the necessary legal status to get a social security number, and they're using an ITIN, they're working, they're filing taxes, they have stable employment, they've saved up money for a down payment, they've got credits, but they're using an ITIN to prove their income, or to not prove their income, to report their income to the IRS because they don't have a social security number. We have programs in-house that I handle personally that can help you buy a home with as little as 15% down. Now, there's no assistance programs. You'll read out there's programs where you can put as little as 3.5% down. It's a lie. You don't really own the house, and there's a whole bunch of fees on top of it that it ends up being 10 or 12% out of pocket. And you'll hear some people say, well, gosh, John, there's 10% down options with I-10. Yeah, very few banks do them, and it's almost impossible to get it approved. 15% down or more is what really happens that actually closes escrow. And I have those in-house. So if you know somebody that meets that criteria, or you have a situation where maybe you don't qualify for as much as you want to because you can't count your spouse's income because they have an I-10, we can use the I-10 program as long as you have at least 15% down. All right. I've got a question here from Janum. Waitlist dropped to 33 in San Bernardino. I think that's a great spot. I think that I think you probably are going to wait until October. But I'm seeing more and more waitlisters falling lower and lower on the list. And so I think that it is really, really awesome to see. And I'm curious if you can tell me where you started, because I'm trying to get a feel for how far people are dropping. But I'm seeing more and more people dropping out, which surprised me. I thought more people would stick around longer, and I'm going to cover in a minute as part of my agenda. I'm going to talk about why I think people are dropping out. Before I go there, I want to talk about something that one of my clients mentioned to me, and I called them and I was talking about their loan, and I was talking about, just checking in. Is what I try to do, is to be your mortgage advisor for life. And I was checking in to make sure everything's going good with their mortgage. And they said, John, I actually didn't think I could call you about my mortgage. And I said, well, gosh, why? And they said, because you sold the mortgage. Your company doesn't hold the mortgage. And so there's a concept called your mortgage servicer. And for those of you doing Dream for All, your mortgage is going to get sold immediately. You'll make your first payment to us, and after that, it's sold to the state, and they sell it to a company called Lakeview Servicing. So that's your servicing company. That's who you make the payment to. But I'm your mortgage advisor. Now, my company, if you're not doing a down payment assistance loan, we keep and service about half the loans that we do. The other half we sell. Multiple financial reasons why we do that. But the simple thing is, I will always be your mortgage advisor. Even if you end up buying a new construction home and you don't use me, I'm still going to be your mortgage advisor, because you had to go to them, but I'm the smartest guy that you know about mortgage, and you're stuck with me for your entire life. Okay. So I just want to point out, you are not held to, hey, I can only call the mortgage servicer for advice. Now, you can only call the mortgage servicer to actually handle things. Like, I can't make changes to your loan or I can't make changes as far as servicing and customer service, but I can give you advice. I can talk to you about financial issues. And if you have questions about, hey, how does this work with my taxes and insurance? And why is it this way? I want to be your advisor for life. I want you to call me with those questions. All right. So we're going to move on to reasons people are not using their vouchers. And then we're going to talk about tips for voucher winners and waitlisters. And then we will be done. So let's look. I got some questions. All right. So Janum said started at 45 and is now down to 33. That is fantastic. So again, huge amount of progress. I'll talk in a minute about that. Yassine and I spoke this morning. He had said he was going to be I called him the test dummy. Yassine, I don't want to call you a test dummy out in front of everybody. So he is my tester. And we were looking to see if there was a way to request a wait list, not request a wait list, to request an extension. So Yassine has a voucher. And for multiple reasons, he knows that the timing is going to be limited for him. And so he wanted to see, hey, do we know anything? And I thought, well, let's request it. Let's see what happens. Well, here's the answer, that there wasn't an extension option on the website. So they probably disabled it or hid it. CalHFA clearly said in their FAQs that you will be able to request an extension on the website, and they'll be considered on a case-by-case basis. We just don't know what those case-by-cases are going to be. And Layla said 79 in Sacramento, started at number 90. So again, I see a lot of movement. Why? Why am I seeing that movement? Here's the deal. So many people got put in the lottery just on a hope, saying there's almost no chance I'm going to get picked, and I'll hopefully figure it out once I get there. And I've had multiple conversations just this week, heartbreaking conversations with people saying, I got in the lottery because I thought, hey, I thought my payment would be between $3,000 and $3,500 a month is what my loan officer said. And they said I could buy up to this dollar amount. And I don't want to spend more than $3,000, but I really need higher than that dollar amount. What they approved me for isn't enough. And I need to be able to go higher than that dollar amount. Well, the problem is that the loan officer's range saying, hey, it's between $3,000 and $3,500. The truth is the payment was $3,500 at the dollar amount that they were talking about. But the loan officer didn't have the guts to say, hey, look, here's the payment. Like there's a little bit of wiggle room. There's a little bit of, hey, this could change or that could change. But to give somebody a $500 a month range and say, hey, you're approved for this much, and it's somewhere within this range of payment, that's a bit misleading. And so now they're saying, hey, I can't find a home at that price. I want to go higher, but is it possible? Because I don't want to be higher than $3,000 a month. And my heartbreak for them was, look, your $3,000 a month payment wasn't at that number. It's way down here at this number. And there's nothing in your region that I know of. Now, you can consider commuting, and commuting wasn't an option. And moving to a different area wasn't an option. And I felt horrible talking to this client because I really wanted to help them out. But the truth is the math is the math. And a lot of people didn't get good advice. I had another client who I talked to this week who they weren't even told a monthly payment by their lender, and they weren't told anything about how to get themselves better prepared or things they needed to do to be prepared. And so they bought a car back in June because they didn't think that would matter because they had their pre-approval letter, and they weren't given good advice, and they weren't given the advice to say, hey, make sure you're taking care of these things and not doing those things. And it's heartbreaking because they're now in a position where, well, we could qualify at this dollar amount if I didn't have the car. But because you have the car, you don't qualify at the dollar amount that you need. And so you're finding that they didn't do anything wrong on purpose. Now, some people, they said, you know what, I didn't expect to get a voucher, and so I had to make a decision, and I did, and that's life. Life happens. But so many other people didn't get good advice leading into this. And then there's a big segment of people that I'm talking to that are just saying, John, I can't find anything. Like I have a very specific neighborhood that I want, and I need a very, very specific price point. And even worse yet is I can't decide. I see this one, and I've got a couple of clients that wrote an offer on this one, and then they're like, no, wait, I like that one better. And they cancel an offer on this one, and they go back to that one. And they end up losing them both. The challenge is you want the perfect home. You want the home that's the right home, but you have too specific of criteria, and there's just not a lot of homes out there. And so you have to decide is just like when you're renting, it's like, hey, I don't have a lot of options in renting. I got to take what's available. Now, the difference is you say, well, if I'm renting, this is temporary. I can move at any time. But when I'm buying like this Dream for All program, if I move, I have to pay it back, and I don't get to transfer my Dream for All loan to another house, but it gets you in. It gets you in because you still get 80% of the equity in the property. So now you get to take that 80% of the equity and trade it up into the next home. And if you stay as a renter, if you miss the opportunity to utilize this voucher, if you run out of time because you keep hopping from property to property and keep looking over your shoulder saying, wait, I think that one might be better. I don't want to miss out on that one that could be a better deal or a better house. And so I'm going to cancel this one to go get that one. Sooner or later, you miss out on everything. It's the bird in the hand versus two in the bush. You got one bird in your hand that you literally got a bird to come eat out of your hand, but you see two of them in the bush. And so you throw this one away to go chase the two that are over there. And what do you end up with? Well, the two that are over there that you chased after, they ran away. You had nothing left because you were looking for something better. It's no different than in life. It's no different than in relationships. It's no different than how we look at anything that we are doing, which is you have to compromise a little bit. Okay, there's no perfect relationship. There's no perfect spouse. There's no perfect boss or job or house. I rhymed just like Dr. Seuss. That's pretty awesome. I didn't do that on purpose, and I probably didn't do a very good job of it. But you have to make compromises, concessions. You have to prioritize what's important. Right now, you have a golden ticket in your hand, and people are squandering it. And so you have to say, hey, maybe I'll do something different. I know I want to live next door to my mom, but that market is more expensive than what I can afford. I know I want the new construction home, but the new construction home is going to take X amount of time to build, and I'm not sure if that's going to fit into my timelines, and I don't know if I should do that or not. And so the challenge is that people are chasing perfection, and they're going to end up with nothing. And so I see more and more opportunity. I still don't think we're going to get all the way to the end of the wait list, but I did not expect to see the wait list numbers going down so much right now. I expected a good number of people falling out the first weekend or the first week that found that you know what? Either A, oh gosh, I want a voucher, but I already bought a home. I want a voucher, but I don't want to buy a home really. And it's not a good idea, or my credit has fallen or whatever. Like I expected that first wave. And then I thought everybody else, well, they're in it and they're committed and they're moving forward. And those people are going to keep fighting and fighting and fighting until September 26th. And then and only then will they give up. And so I'm seeing more and more people that are facing the reality that says, hey, this isn't the right thing for me. And it's got to be the right thing for you, especially when it comes to your monthly payment. Because as much as anything else, you can say, hey, this is all good long-term. If you can't swing the monthly payment short-term, you're going to fail. And that does not bode well for anybody. You, me, Cal Haffa, the marketplace. So do not put yourself in a position where, well, the bank says I can afford it, therefore I must be able to. Do not ever listen to somebody telling you, oh yeah, our numbers say you can afford it, you should be able to. Sometimes you got to make lifestyle decisions that prioritize, hey, I'm going to stop doing these things so that I can be a homeowner. That's one thing. But if you literally have mandatory obligations that you are paying for, and you can't stop doing that, just because I don't see those obligations does not mean that you can afford to make this monthly payment. All right, we'll talk about some tips for voucher winners. Got a comment here really quickly. Hockey Dork, welcome back, Hockey Dork. Come for the information, stay for life advice. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so let's go back to tips for voucher winners. Okay, so I think I already went into some of this stuff, but let me be clear. If you are a voucher winner, you have to look at this. You do not have 90 days. And by the way, you have squandered 21 of them. Okay. So squandered is a rough way to say it. So Hockey Dork is leaving because I'm not giving life advice anymore. I'm just picking on people. I'm just joking. But 3 weeks in, okay. In another week, you're a month in, another 10 days, you're a month in. You have 1/3 of the time is gone. So you have to start looking aggressively at what is available, not what is my perfect home, but what is available. And if you're not willing to compromise on that, then accept, I'm not saying give up your voucher, but accept that maybe you won't be able to use your voucher. But the second most important thing is when you find something that works, stop looking. Hardest thing in the world. Here's more life advice, Hockey Dork. Okay. When you have something good, don't look over your shoulder for something better. You're going to lose all of it. That has to do with relationships. That has to do with your home that you are buying. Pick a home. It's the right home. If it's the wrong home, cancel it and start over. But if it is the right home at that moment, do not look over your shoulder. And it has to do with interest rates. Because I've taught all of you guys, I caught every single one of you that go to Cal Haffa and take a look at the interest rates. See where they're at, watch them every single day, play with it. I've got a spreadsheet that I'm giving to my clients that you can play with yourself. So if you are not one of my clients, reach out to me and I can get you this spreadsheet. If you are one of my clients, reach out, I'll get you the spreadsheet so that it literally shows exactly what you qualify for. You can play with the numbers, plug in an HOA, change the interest rate. But once you have a locked in interest rate, stop looking. There's nothing you can do to make it better. Okay, you're either going to feel better. I locked a client yesterday when we were at 6.625. Today it's at 6.875. The fact is they made the right decision for locking. But if rates had fallen to 6.5, they still made the right decision for locking because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so the number one thing for people who are on the wait list is make sure that you're getting prepared now. Make sure that you're talking to your lender or talking to me and figuring out, hey, what is it that I should be doing? Am I prepared? I had a client that got her voucher yesterday. Super excited for them. Got her voucher yesterday, but started talking to me as she started getting into single digits and saying, John, we need to take a look. And we pulled the credit. The credit score had fallen a little bit. We needed to pay off some debt. They got the debt paid off. So they're prepared. We've talked numbers. We've talked strategy that, hey, if we pay off that debt, then we're able to qualify you for a higher dollar amount. They went out looking at homes yesterday. The first day they had a voucher, went out looking at homes yesterday. They're probably going to write offers today or tomorrow. Okay. That's taking action because you're not going to see a whole bunch of new inventory. You're going to see some new inventory, but not a whole bunch. And so you have to look at what's available and say, of the things that are available, am I willing to accept one of those, that price, that monthly payment in that neighborhood for that style and in that condition? And if you're on the wait list, you should be thinking about those things now. If you have a voucher, you should have been thinking about those things yesterday. Okay, so I appreciate everybody. I do have time for Q&A, so I've got a few of you that are still left here live. I know I went a little bit longer than I normally do, but if you have questions about anything mortgage related, finance related, money related, life related, maybe not life related, but feel free to ask me. If you're watching live, you can ask the questions right now. If you're watching recorded, you can post questions and I'll happily get back to them. While I'm waiting to see if anybody has any questions, want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I've been getting great feedback from people about the information that I've been putting out there. I really, really appreciate it. And I just ask one thing in return. If you like the information that I am providing, help me share it with somebody else. If every one of you would share it with one more person, that's a little bit more reach to allow me to get my information out there. I love educating people. I love guiding people. I'm very direct. I'm interviewing for the job of being your lender. But if I'm not the right person for you, I'm going to tell you. And if you already have somebody, I talked to a client earlier this week. She already has another lender. She called me for advice. When we were done with the conversation, I said, hey, just for the record, I'd love to take care of you, but it sounds like you're happy with your lender. And she said, I am. And I said, great, then stick with your lender, but keep me in mind in the future. Keep me in mind if there's ever anything that anybody else you know could use your help. I am happy to give information, to have one-on-one meetings with people and tell them what I think. Again, I am interviewing to be your lender. I'm going to ask for the opportunity to take care of you, but it's okay. If you're sticking with your lender, that's okay. I do kind of wonder, if you love your lender so much, why aren't they able to answer those questions? But anyway, guys, on that note, my camera, God, this camera just overheats and it's only like 6 months old. I got it at Christmas time. So I don't know what the heck's going on with the camera, but I got to figure it out because this Sony camera is a nice camera, but it don't stay on very long when it's warm. Anyway, really appreciate everybody joining me. I'm going to duck out now. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Stay cool and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.